What's going on, folks? Earthmaster here, checking in on this Monday evening, October 19th, 2020 is the date. 7:48 p.m. West Coast time here. You can see activity there in Alaska still continuing there with activity, earthquake activity picking up following that 7.5 quake that struck earlier today. Got a lot going on here on my end, so I'm kind of getting some numbers in the mix there, but 7.5 was the magnitude that struck out there in the Alaska area. You can see that on the globe there, pretty significant quake. There is still a tsunami advisory in effect for Alaska and also Hawaii. Let's go ahead and check that out real quick here. This is the latest information from tsunami.gov. Tsunami advisory for parts of Alaska there in the yellow and orange color on the map. Let me get rid of that here real quick. And also for the state of Hawaii. Now, no major tsunami is expected for Hawaii, but there is some specific sea levels that may trigger the advisory, or may trigger the buoys around the area. Let's go ahead and check out that latest information there on the Hawaii warning real quick. Tsunami advisory issued for the state of Hawaii, effective looks like Hawaiian time there, and it mentions the earthquake and parameters and whatnot. Based on all available data, a major tsunami is not expected to strike Hawaii. However, sea level changes have been recorded at Hilo and Kaluai just above advisory level that could be hazardous to swimmers and boaters, as well as to persons near the shore, at beaches, and in harbors and marinas. The threat may continue for several hours after the initial wave. Now, I've been wondering why there's just been so many tsunami statements and how long it's been continuing since the main earthquake. So they're not looking at just the specific single wave, you know, the original wave. They're looking at just the hazardous conditions that could follow that wave. Even if there wasn't a large wave, sea level changes could become, well, dangerous, I guess. Let's see here. Let's go over to, this is number 10. Tsunami advisory remains in effect. South Alaska region. But I do want to see, where's the other one at here? These are max tsunami recorded heights here. Sandpoint, Alaska looks like, and also Chignik Bay. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, man. I'm horrible with pronunciations there. In Alaska, both of those areas receiving 2.3 feet on the tsunami, and that was earlier. For Hawaii, now, like I said, there's just because there's an advisory doesn't mean that, you know, you're gonna see a tsunami. It just basically what's going on there is maybe hazardous, not hazardous, but abnormal tides and whatnot is the main focus, I guess, that they're kind of looking at. Sea level changes is what they're stating, that it's been recorded at these areas there in Hawaii, just above the advisory level. So yeah, it's kind of this is kind of an interesting, different setup here for this earthquake. I don't recall any tsunamis in the past, unless they were really big ones, you know, and there was a major tsunami produced. I don't recall this many updates and messages and watches and advisories for for an earthquake like this. Kind of very interesting, I should say. Anyway, let's zoom in on the map here real quick, and you guys can see the outlined area that the tsunami.gov site has issued. Pretty much all areas around Hawaii is under the advisory. You can see that every single island out there, and also parts up in Alaska now. Well, still, I should say, it's been that way for a few hours now. You see those areas being underneath the advisory. Okay, it's been a while since that earthquake has struck, and you know, maybe there's something going on that they're not telling us, or maybe I'm missing something here. I just don't recall a tsunami advisory going on this long, even around the main area. I can understand Hawaii. Okay, it takes a while for the tsunami and waves to reach that far out across the Pacific, but this up here just kind of pretty crazy. Let's look at the earthquake activity that is taking place up there in Alaska. You can see right there all the earthquakes that have taken place there. Looks like about 34 earthquakes around the region, and that includes these couple outside of the main band of activity there. 75 or 7.5, the main earthquake at 40.1 kilometers below surface there. Since then, there's been quite a few aftershocks. You can see numerous fives, a bunch of fours and whatnot, upper fives there, your sand point, and slowly dropping down there into the fours. Looks like the latest quake in that region at 3.4. Still pretty active. Now, the USGS is stating that the 7.5 was an aftershock of the earthquake that struck back in July 22nd of this year. That's 7.8. Okay. Little difference between these two right here. You can see about 30 miles or so, but roughly within this same subducting area of the Pacific and North American plate there. Major area to see some large quakes. So potentially could be an aftershock, right? Definitely. But how far back do you have to go? Are you going to say it's been a few months that it's an aftershock, or a couple years now this is an aftershock? Who knows? I don't know how they set up their parameters on trying to guess if that's an aftershock or not. They have a little information down here about the tectonic summary of it, and I'm not going to read over all of this, but they do state right here. Let's see, where's their information about? Okay, here we go. This event, talking about the 7.5 that occurred today, is an aftershock of the 7.8 earthquake that occurred on July 22nd, 2020. So they definitely flat out mentioned that this is an aftershock. This area right here can also see some mega quakes, folks. 9.2 back in 1964 was a mega quake. That's one of the larger earthquakes in recorded history. This thing was felt pretty much over a wide area, very wide area of Alaska region. I was looking at this earlier, and I'm not going to go over it all completely. Sand Point, obviously a big area, even places like Anchorage and areas up to 900 kilometers away. Anchorage, there's quite a few folks reporting that earthquake there. So I think I'm kind of just in a disagreement that this is an aftershock, but I'm not a professional geologist and whatnot. Realistically, there hasn't been a whole lot of earthquake activity in this region. Up north, yes, got to go to the 1-day all magnitudes here, and you can see the activity all across Alaska, and this is pretty common on any given day. If you look at the USGS maps, very common for earthquake activity. There just hasn't been a lot of aftershocks, considering if that's what they want to call them, in this area. So I don't know. We'll go ahead and call it an aftershock, I guess. What has happened though is a lot of activity has quieted down in Southern California. Haven't really seen too much activity in Southern California since that 7.5 struck. Now, I can't say the same thing up here in the north part of the state. Up around Willits, we've seen the increase in earthquake activity up here in Northern California, 3.8 and a 3.5 within that region. About a minute or so of each other, it's been pretty quiet. But now activity seems to be picking up a little bit in the north part of the state. A lot of tremor is still continuing in the Pacific Northwest and also there in southern Oregon. This is day number, I don't know. It's been going on since the 4th, so we're looking at quite a few, at least a couple weeks now. Add a couple days onto that as well. 219 epicenters of tremor in this area. I don't, it's hard to say exactly what this earthquake pressure transfer, if you will, is going to do to the region. But I have noticed activity picking up in the north part of Northern California and also out there in Hawaii. The rest of the Pacific Plate still remains very, very quiet. I know we mentioned that last night about the quietness. So areas up here still expected to see some movement. Northern California has got me a little bit worried because, with the tremor that's going on, and now we got movement up here with the Pacific Plate. These areas, this is moving. Where's that plate boundary? Here, I'll show you this real quick here. This is an area. Whoa, that's way too close here. Let me see if I can find out where the North American Plate went to. Okay, here's a simple graphics, folks, of the area that we're looking at right now. Let's back this out a little bit. Occurring in the subducting area right here. We got these two plates, not the Juan de Fuca Plate. The Juan de Fuca Plate sits off the coast of Northern California, past Vancouver Island. This is the area where the Cascadia subduction zone is. The Pacific Plate here in the yellow, and the North American Plate here, kind of, you got that subducting area right here, right? So with that 7.5 that struck, the 7.8 struck back in July and stuff like that, we've seen a lot of movement with this Pacific Plate moving, obviously subducting in this region here. And what's that doing over here to this area over here? If we get one portion of the plate moving, it's obviously going to affect other areas nearby and also afar. So I think if anything, we're seeing an increase in pressure out here along the Juan de Fuca Plate. And along with the tremor up north, I mean, I think anything's possible here, that we could see potential movement here along the west coast. Even though activity has died down in Southern California since the 7.5 struck, like I said, not so much in the north part of the state. Just looking at these simple drawings here would come to a pretty good conclusion that we could be seeing pressure built up out here along the west coast. 7.8, that one, what was this, about 28 kilometers below the surface. The 7.5 today, 40 kilometers. So a little bit difference in depths, and it's getting interesting. You really can't, I don't like using the word predicting at all, because you really can't, you don't have a crystal ball. You can't say, I predict an earthquake today somewhere in the world. Well, yeah, obviously there's going to be an earthquake somewhere in the world. There's thousands of them that happen every day. But it's super duper quiet over here along the west part of the Pacific Ring. Also, I mean, look, it's just absent of activity. Yes, we did see movement over west Indonesia area, over towards what's this area? What is this area right over here? Sumatra region. I was going to say Ecuador, but I've seen the equator. Oh goodness. I do know my locations. I do. Yeah, it's very interesting to see what's happening after the 7.5. Not a whole lot of activity here in Hawaii. That's 2.5 and above. We got to go down here a little bit more so we can see a little bit detail. But we did see that underwater volcano up there pick up a little bit more activity it's off to the northwest, just a few miles or so. near this underwater volcano. These earthquakes pretty deep, about 37 kilometers or so, almost 40 kilometers down there. Deep movement, obviously, could potentially mean lava flows out there. Not lava, but magma flows way down there. Could be some magma movement. So yeah, right now the spotlight, obviously, if you look at the flat scale Earth up here in Alaska. I'm really surprised they didn't come out with a earthquake forecast like they sometimes do. What do we say here? The majority of large earthquakes in this area are thrust events on the plate interface, unlike the strike-slip event. So they're calling this October 19th a strike-slip event, not a subducting type quake. The stretch of the Alaska Aleutian subduction zone beneath the Tsunami Islands has not ruptured in a historical great earthquake that's greater than 8.0. This observation led to definition of the Tsunami Gap in the context of Seismic Gap Theory, which proposes that fault sections that have not slipped for the longest elapsed time will be the site of future earthquakes. Could host extremely large earthquakes is clouded by and then it goes in a bunch of so what's that mean? Yeah, well, that means that we could, well, it's been a while since we've seen a great earthquake, right? A great earthquake. Mega, I call them mega earthquakes in this area. So that's kind of a strike slip event. I guess so. I mean, maybe, yeah, I'd be on guard up there just in case. Subducting areas are no joke when it comes to mega earthquakes up here. I'm gonna have to study that a little bit more and see what exactly they're referring to in this area. So let's check the tsunami statement one more time. Well, actually, let's check the buoys out there. Of course, it's going to pop up buoys that have been in event mode over the past, I don't know, what is it, within 24 hours here. You can see that, 24 hours. Of course, we had that, all these buoys up here off the Gulf of Alaska, across the Aleutian Islands there, of course, picking up wave height differences and whatnot. You can see that there. And also Hawaii had something kind of popping up there on the south side of the big island up there. Not for sure exactly what that was about, but that's been going on for quite a while. About the time these things went off, I got hiccups, folks. I'm going to try to get through this without hiccuping too much here. So yeah, definitely there was a tsunami produced. Luckily it wasn't that big of a tsunami, but they're still staying with this Tsunami Advisory for Alaska out here along the Aleutian Islands, part of them, and also all of the islands of Hawaii. Here's number 11. Statement number 11. Tsunami Advisory remains in effect. I mean, what's going on here? That's just for the longest time. South Alaska and the Alaska Peninsula, Pacific Coast from Kennedy Entrance and these areas here, still in effect for probably rough waves, you know, abnormal tides. There's 2.5 feet right there. That's a pretty good, little good tsunami. And that was, what do we got, 1826. So anyway, folks, that's still going to continue on for a little while. You know, there's not going to be no major tsunami, just some abnormal tides, maybe some rough waves and whatnot. in that region there. So what else we got here? Let's cover, kind of got sidetracked here a little bit. Cover California real quick once again. See the area here in Willits. We're just southeast of Willits there. 4.1 actually got upgraded there a little bit. I thought that was a 3.8 and a 3.5. Just got updated. 4.1 there and a 3.5 2.0 to follow that. A little bit difference of depths there too. 6.2, 1.9 and a 2.3. This area has seen some earthquake activity. If we can go back, let's see here, let's go back to, actually this is the most activity that's been happening in the last week. It's been pretty quiet, but if you go back over the last 30 days, you can see the activity picked up, or was picking up, I should say, in this general area. But yeah, kind of definitely some increased pressure out here along the north coast here, Northern California. And as I mentioned, Tremor map is still pretty active out there, Southern Oregon and Washington region. Just could be a recipe for some interesting movement pretty soon. Yellowstone National Park, this is pretty awesome to see the pressure, or not the pressure, but the powerful wave show up. Check out this station down here in Moose Creek, Idaho. That's the 7.5 earthquake that struck there in Alaska. Look how long that went on. The red line obviously well off the charts, and then it's hard to see all the waves that were kicked up there. Purple Mountain here, 7.5 showing up there in Wyoming. Just a powerful earthquake, absolutely powerful. Right here you can see, using a big earthquake like that, you can see which stations are squashed as far as like the data goes. I mean, look at Upper Falls right here. Look how, let's see, is it going to let me show? There we go. Look at, yeah, here you can just barely see it. These little scribbles here, the P waves and whatnot, showing up on here. But man, even if Yellowstone blew up, I don't even think this thing would show any type of movement. Just man, I don't know why they squash them like that. Same for over here along the east entrance, Mount Sheridan region. All these stations, Old Faithful. Yeah, that's wow. Alrighty, anyway, so I don't know what else to cover on that earthquake up there, folks. It's just going to be an interesting period of activity to see exactly where this is going to have an adverse effect on. Like I say, we really haven't seen any increase in movement since that 7.5. Normally we'll see a plate adjustment like that, like a 7.5 or greater, or even smaller sometimes, and then we'll see the resulting effect of that movement, you know, most of the time in the general direction of where the plate's going. Like for example, over here along the Japan area, or even a little bit of motion along the rift out here, East Pacific Rise. But right now, none of that's happening. The only activity I've seen is the activity picking up in Northern Cal, so maybe that's going to be the hot spot. I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. Let's see here, folks. Earthquake history. I got to do that real quick because I kind of stuck to it. Kind of something I have to stick by. 6.8, 7.5 today definitely beats this earthquake. Out there in India back in 1991 on this day in earthquake history. October 19th was the date. Of course, these guys always mentioning this, one of the world's deadliest earthquakes here. Definitely not nothing to joke about, because it was pretty bad when it comes to fatalities and whatnot. Wow, 30-meter deep crack. Wow, that's pretty kind of scary. M6.3 out in Helena, Montana, 1935. Wow, I don't remember hearing about this one. 200 people lost their chimneys. Oh, shucks. What else was there? Most severe. Yeah, so you can get some big earthquakes out there around Helena too. That's pretty, that's unreal. 4.2 down in Louisiana, 1930. Largest historical earthquake back in 1930 for Louisiana. All right, folks. I'm still going to be watching the live stream here for a little bit. We'll yeah, we'll keep an eye on all this stuff. Like I say, I have a couple stations here keyed up. Alaska station, pretty close to the epicenter of that 7.5 today is this station right here. AK Alaska, right? This is another good sized quake. Definitely in the upper 4 range. So other than that, most of the stations across the globe are pretty quiet. I'm gonna fix this thing back here. 2.7 looks like the latest quake on the globe. Now, the more quakes that there are out here, it kind of, well, let's see here. I'm gonna make sure I'm back for the 24-hour period. That's about right there. All right, folks. Man, I didn't even realize I was recording this long. It's almost a 30-minute long update. So I repeated a lot of the stuff just because it's necessary. I mean, a lot of people panic when they see tsunami advisories and whatnot, but know that there is no big tsunami headed for Hawaii. Just some potential wave disturbances, maybe some abnormal tides, rough waters, stuff you don't want to be in. You know, you don't know exactly for sure how rough the waters are going to be. Therefore, the tsunami advisory will remain in effect for an extended period. I mean, they're already on message number 11. It's like, I've never seen it go on that long for a small tsunami, if anything. So, all right, folks, I'm gonna jump off here. Have a good night. We'll catch you guys another time. Stay safe.